Okay, now preparing to live stream the meeting. It's going. Good. Here we go. We're live on YouTube.
We are live on YouTube.
Yeah. So
these are our regular enlighten up conversations.
Okay, now I'm preparing to live stream the meeting. It's going. Good. Here we go. We're live on YouTube. Let me close that window. There we go. Experimenting with a new platform. Regular conversations that we normally have. This time we're experimenting with streaming them on YouTube.
Which so that it's recorded historically. This is right at the beginning of the coronavirus, where we're all encouraged to isolate and try and find other ways to have social connection. So here's us out there doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So today, Deb and I are wanting to chat with you about going within. We started this conversation yesterday and we streamed into our public Facebook group, Reality Reinventors. So if you're curious about the first part of this conversation, you can hop on over to Facebook and look for the group Reality Reinventors and find that. And this is the second part of that conversation. How do we actually go within? Because if there's this meme going on right now that's like, since we can't go out, let's go in. Let us go within. How do we do that?
So perhaps we're talking about meditation. And perhaps let's start with what is meditation? What are some common ideas of what meditation is, Div?
Well, I hear a lot of people talk about meditation like it's stilling the mind. And so it's this misconception that the mind has to be still, which sometimes it is, and sometimes we can do that, and sometimes it's not necessarily. And so meditation is a certain type of, well, before we tell you what it is, what else is it not? What else do people think meditation is?
Some people, I think, imagine that it's sitting in a certain posture, that you need to be in a certain posture, that you need to be in a quiet environment, that you need to remove all distractions. And some people think that it is listening to some recording or another person guiding your mind so that you can achieve some calm. And this is true, guided meditations, whether that's a live person guiding or a recording, there's many apps for it. They are very effective in helping us feel some calm in our very stressful environment. And though I hear some people, they can't keep their mind focused on where it's being suggested to go. And so they might not be achieving a meditative state, even though they're listening to a guided meditation. It's not that, even though those words are used. Really, it is about we are in a different brainwave from our everyday beta brainwaves. And until you've experienced them, it's a bit tricky to explain how you know whether you're in alpha or theta or gamma, because you and I know they have a very different feel from each other. And there's many different ways that you can get your brain to shift the brainwave that it's using or operating in. Have you got some ideas about And so before I ask you that question, that's what meditation is. It is operating in a brainwave that is different from our everyday logical linear thinking, our beta brainwaves. That's meditation, and you can do it whether you're sitting down or standing up, and you can do it if you're in a quiet environment. Equally so, it is important that we're able to do it in a dynamic environment.
Yeah.
Go.
And so I really want to speak into the recognition of a meditative state is what emerges when we have shifted our brainwaves, right? And so sometimes people will stay in beta brainwaves and try to still the mind. And that doesn't actually work. The mind slows down and stills when the brainwaves change. Like, it's a different experience when the brainwaves change. So it's the output that is different when we focus our attention on something. And so that's something that we focus our attention on can be our breathing. That something can be the rhythmic movement of our steps if we're walking. You know, a run can be a meditation. So many runners I know achieve meditative states in running because of the left, right, repetitive movement. And the brain waves will change when there's a focal point that is conducive, enabling for that to happen. And then the output of that is a fundamentally different quality of experience than we can access when we are in our day-to-day beta busy brain waves. And so oftentimes, you know, as Deb said, people think they're meditating and they're still in beta brain waves. You know, and they're pretty much just sitting there thinking.
And that, well, it still has value because there's more stillness in the body. There is an intention to stop working and to be being still. So none of what we say is to diminish any of the benefits from different apps and tools and resources that are there to help quieten the mind or quieten the state. We'd just like to offer some really efficient ones with some science to help you understand it. Now, when you were just talking about that rhythmic stepping in, having a jog or out for a walk, it reminds me of in the olden days. That makes me sound old, I know. Back in the day.
I wonder if you're in time with metronomes.
Yes.
And those clocks, you know, that went,
This is a sign in Australian Sign Language for hypnosis.
Right, exactly. Precisely.
And so hypnotherapists would use a swinging pendulum to say, just watch this, whatever they had swinging, because that naturally induces a kind of rhythmic swaying, or a rhythmic motion naturally induces alpha brainwaves. So there's lots of things that you can do. Go for a walk, focusing the mind on something singular, like being in the garden and watching an ant go about its business, or something that's rhythmic. So there's lots of things in the environment that we can do or use to help us to get into that alpha brainwave state. And the feel of that is like when you're daydreaming. The mind kind of wanders and moves and meanders in a different way to in the beta brainwaves.
Yeah, meanders is the key word. Wanders, moves. It's a much more, you know, if we think of beta as like a brisk walk, you know, that we're powering through the linear mind that's like, hey, this, that, which a lot of people spend, you know, their working lives, their operating systems is beta. And so alpha has that like slow, la 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 kind of quality to it inside our own experience, you know. When we're,
and then there is theta, which they refer to as deep meditation, a deeper meditative state. So alpha, we actually induce quite often.
Mind wandering. And even sometimes when we have a conversation with someone, they're telling us about their adventure or their story or their event, and they're really caught in it, and we join them with it, and we're kind of traveling along. Some people will refer to good storytellers as, they'll say, I was entranced by the movie or the drama or what have you. So actually it's quite commonly occurring state for us. So everybody can relax. We can do that one quite easily and spontaneously. What about theta though? Well, when you hypnosis, like when we put ourselves in theta, when we drop into theta, that state, it's like we're hypnotizing ourselves on a deeper level. There's theta healing. I don't know if you're familiar with theta healing. Theta is the brainwave when it's like you may or may not have had the experience when you kind of lose awareness of your body to some extent, and there's just a kind of a feeling of a consciousness that's there, that isn't kind of you feel it, like you can't feel your limbs to the same extent, like that's the type of brainwave that's indicative of you're in theta. When you're in theta, you have that experience. Let me rephrase that. That's the experience that
I get you. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, sometimes a floaty feeling, but generally you're completely in whatever is the experience of your mind. You can forget where you are, time warps. Some people feel floating, like they haven't got a body at all. Some people can't feel parts of their limbs. It's just a bit odd when you talk about it. And it reminds me of a conversation that was said to be had with the Buddha. And somebody said, what do you get from meditation? And the Buddha said, nothing. And you lose a lot.
Your worries.
Yes.
Your fears, your stresses, your anxieties. Those are the things that you lose. Like none of that's there in true meditation and deep meditation. None of that is there. This whole fully present moment absorption when you're in theta like that.
And so I suppose that sensation of losing awareness of the body is also losing awareness of our construct of ourself, anchored in this time and context, which is the one which is the place where the worries and concerns are. They're actually in our mind, in our experience. And so that's the beautiful nothing that you get. It's a very full nothing. It's like walking into a magnificent space or room. And it's just spacious. It's just spacious. And it also has a very full feeling. So it's quite odd to explain because our mind doesn't get, you can't have a full nothing. You can't have a rich nothing. Nothing is the absence of everything.
That's something that's really important to point out. Our minds can't understand. We can't get there. And this is the point that I was trying to make before. We can't get there with the conscious mind, the beta brainwaves. It can't wrap you know, when you say the phrase, like, trying to wrap my head around it, wrap my mind, a lot of these experiences, they can only be experienced, and then we try to put them in words that you can't quite wrap your head around it in the same way. And so there is, because to come back into the experience, we're coming back into the mind, the logical, linear, like back into this body, this human
ego construct,
right? Which is one of the things that goes when in deep meditation. Let's tell them about gamma brainwaves, the insight brainwave. Beyond theta, when we go beyond theta, we reach gamma. Gamma is like what?
Gamma is, it's called the insight brainwave because it seems that you are, you are able to access information and wisdom that doesn't seem available to your little human. This is a very difficult state to explain, even more so than theta. There's a more loss of self in a way, though this is only my experience, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about how they experience gamma. For me, it is a feeling of being in everything, a feeling of omnipresence.
Yeah.
And omniscient, kind of all-knowing. Anything at all that you are seeking to know or understand, somehow clarity just comes.
Omnipresence.
And there's a feeling of oneness. So there's this, we were talking yesterday about, there isn't even a gesture for how the feeling of everything is in everything, this kind of intertwined, no separateness. The science behind what might be going on as to how we get insight in gamma is very interesting, and we could perhaps come back to that another time.
Yeah, well, we can deep dive into any of these in another episode.
Okay. Is there something more that you could say about the gamma brainwave?
Well, you pretty much nailed it when you said the feeling of omnipresence, because that's, I think that is the best way to sum it up, is the unity consciousness that's there, which is why it says the insight brainwave, because everything's accessible in that space of like the all. When
let's have a conversation another time about, speaking from a quantum physics point of view, what we're talking about is the field of potentiality, that every moment in time is concurrently happening. We know this to be so in physics, even though we can't experience it because we experience time linear, but every moment in time is available, and every potential in every moment of time is available. And we can tune into another moment in time or another potential happening in this time. These are human frames to describe it. So here's a question, let's come back to another time because I think it'd be really cool. If every single moment in the universe and every single possibility is available, all knowledge, even knowledge that seems to us not yet discovered, is available for us now in gamma brainwaves, why is it that some people do go into a very, very deep meditative state and ask a question and don't get a very clear answer?
Oh, yes, that's definitely a question for another time. Yeah, absolutely.
And they are in gamma. I know myself, I've been in gamma and I've asked a question and the answer hasn't been clear to me, even though I kind of have a sensation of my mind grappling with the answer. Do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
So
Yeah.
we'll come back to that another time. That's just a little kind of
teaser for another episode. So speaking of which, we're gonna do these episodes 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, and we're gonna stream them here. So leave us some comments and let us know if you're enjoying them. Let us know what you'd like us to speak more on and cover. These we love to chat about all things enlightenment, philosophy, neuroscience, greater consciousness,
quantum physics.
quantum physics. Yeah.
So we haven't said, how do you go within? How do you stimulate a theta brainwave? And interestingly, quite naturally, this morning while I was meditating, I was first in, I'd say, alpha brainwaves, contemplating the day and how to, you know, what's important, how should I be, whatever. And I noticed that my orientation was kind of here. And then I said, oh, I've not dropped in. And then I had a different feel of kind of coming back in. For me, it has a sensation of kind of rolling back and then settling inside. And then it's like a whole different presence is there inside. And happened just like that. As soon as I'm like, oh, I'm not in and being with myself, it just happened with the very next breath. And I thought, oh, what did I just do? How did I do that? What, you know, what's the mechanism? Not the what, but the how. And you and I know in our experience holding the retreats like Iris and Six Senses retreat, that we share our own structure as a kind of priming for the mind to find its own way, because everybody is different. So I'll just share what I do. I have a visualization. It's now it's so automatic, it's not as explicit in my consciousness, but I kind of imagine inside the skull, from where my nose or eyeballs are, this kind of space or cavity right round to the base of my skull where it would join the spine. And when I do a breath in, I kind of follow the breath, and you can see how even just starting to do the breath, because my mind has learned it and it starts to anticipate, just like Pavlov's dog. He'd go, oh, there's the guy putting his white coat on. He's going to feed me now. And when Pavlov recognized, oh, certain things that are repeated over prime the mind and the human experience to start to automatically do it and anticipate. So my mind is trained to, as soon as I start up, I can't demonstrate it for you, of course, because as soon as I start doing this type of breathing, I immediately go into theta brainwaves, which means I can't talk and be here very well. That's our challenge for explaining it and demonstrating it. But so Pavlov, when he recognized this, he experimented. Lots of people know this. He experimented and thought, can I use my own stimuli to, or trigger, or stimuli to generate the response that I want in my own brain or someone else's? And so he experimented with ringing a bell while he was feeding the dog. And then the dog didn't salivate every time he came in and put his coat on, but only when he rang the bell. So I suppose why I'm offering this is to encourage us not to judge how good we are at a certain thing when we're starting, but understand that the brain will learn and make association, and then it will do it more easily as we practice. But anyway, that's my offering. I kind of do this breathing, and I kind of pull my awareness to the back of my skull there. And the whole sensation in my body is different. I feel like I'm fully inside my body.
That same structure in that meditation I call the pirate ship meditation, because my visualization is of one of those like pirate ships at a amusement park, or the dragon boat it's called, where, you know, it kind of goes up and then back down and then up and then back down and then around again. So it takes me a couple of goes to kind of get over and around again. And so inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, and then each time kind of goes a little bit higher and back down again. So that's my version of the exact same kind of experience to drop in. And so that's a way that you can use to go within and access these different quality experiences. And in some ways, you know, with Theta, like, you're traveling even though you can't really travel, you know, in terms of and in Gamma, in omnipresence, access all that there is whilst at home. So I thought that might be useful for you to learn about today. What are some of the things that you can do to support yourself during this period? Not just
in closing. Oh, sorry, dude. Just in closing, I'll also offer that it's a reliable ancient practice of using the breath, and the breath naturally and easily comes in and then comes out, and we can add our mind's eye to following the breath and bringing the breath inside, and then follow then the oxygen into the heart. And then you can, you know, so each time you take an in-breath, you can visualize where the oxygen is going and go further and further in your mind's eye into your body. And that's kind of ever present, your breath, bringing your awareness to the breath, following the air into your lungs, and then settle with the out breath, following the breath into the heart, and then letting it settle with the out breath, and then following it down some vein to find an organ, and then settle into that organ, and so forth. And then, I mean, that's the mind's eye helping you, joining with the breath to also help you to come within.
Yeah. So we'll wrap up here because we want to keep these relatively.
I know this was a bit of a long one.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope it was valuable for you. Leave us a comment, like it, give us some feedback, let us know, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next video. Bye for now.
Thanks, hon.